Seems like a patron has requested that I react to yet another inspirational video, similar to Becoming Superhuman with Iceman. This time it is Fearless by Jeb Corliss, and I'm not entirely sure what exactly it is. I know that it relates to like a base jumper or like some daredevil jumper, and just, I don't know. I guess it's a bit of a story about him being fearless and bold. It's just like I'm about to be bold with my bold ginger ale. That's an awful joke, but I made it anyways. And it looks like it's from like a decade ago, so this ought to be interesting. I almost started pressing the play until I realized I need to actually be able to see this. Well, this is definitely from a decade ago. I can see all the pixels.
The fear is like literally a hurricane inside your head. Every nerve ending is saying, don't do this.
Fear does crazy things to
Once
humans.
you take that step, there's no coming back.
Pretty much.
And it's something that will change you as a human being.
Can't disagree with that.
Extreme sports push it to the edge, but only one steps over.
You see people get injured. You see people get killed.
Ooh.
I've been surrounded by carnage.
In a sport that gives no second chances, Jeb Corliss has suffered more than just gruesome injuries.
I broke my back in 3 places, all my ribs, left foot, right knee.
Oh.
He's witnessed the violent deaths of too many good friends.
Oh, jeez.
I look over and I see a severed leg lying on the ground.
Jesus.
But still, he is lured to the edge.
There's only 2 things in this world that will prevent me from base jumping. Quadriplegia or death.
Well, damn. Some snazzy music, I will say that. Yeah, Fearless is probably a good title for a topic like this, I imagine.
When I was a small child, I used to dream about flying a lot. And I remember talking to my aunt once. I told her that I wanted to fly, and she looked at me and she's just like, you know, you need to be realistic in life, you know? People can't fly. When you get older, you'll understand. Well, I got older, and guess what? I never understood, and I still don't. I fly.
Sheesh. I could never do
It's the purest
this.
form of human flight I've ever found. It's breathtaking, it's awe-inspiring. There aren't words to describe how truly powerful it is.
Oh, I'm sure.
From Icarus to Armstrong, it's been a consuming dream to break the shackles of Earth and take to the heavens.
Fair.
Now, a courageous few have found a new way to fly. It's called base jumping.
I could never do base jumping. Not a chance.
BASE is an acronym for building,
Oh, it's an acronym.
antenna, span, and Earth. The platforms from which base jumpers leap into searing freefall.
Didn't realize it was seen as an acronym. Huh. Oh, that's gonna give me vertigo. That camera angle. Ooh.
But Jeb Corliss first found his wings somewhere else.
I used to always point at the high dive at the pool, which was apparently a very high dive.
18 months old. He was still wearing a diaper and sucking his thumb. And he was sucking his thumb and pointing up at the high dive. And I went, no, Jeb. And the instructor said, oh, don't worry about it. I'll take him up. he'll never jump.
I'll just take him up there. You know, he'll get scared. He'll want to come back down. He'll stop asking.
Took him up. Jeb wiggled out of his arms, squealed, wee, 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 all the way down. Doggy paddled back to the side of the pool and said, again.
She says that that was the point when she knew she had a problem.
Nice. Ooh.
And I've always been attracted to things
Is that a
that
Burmese python?
scare me.
Those are
I don't know
pretty
why.
snakes.
I just know that I like the way it feels to be around things and to do things that are frightening.
Oh, pythons and anacondas are beautiful
Growing up in New
snakes.
Mexico, Jeb indulged his appetite for fear.
Shocker.
While other children caught tadpoles, he went after more challenging prey.
I used to really enjoy catching poisonous animals. I caught a Gila monster once, lots of scorpions. I had a pet tarantula, like really big, black and orange tarantula.
I hate
I also had a pet black widow for a while.
Excuse?
He was
Why?
probably about 7 years old when he brought the rattlesnake home.
Good Lord.
I just went, okay. And I said, well, what are you going to do with it? And he basically said, well, I'm going to let it go eventually, but I just want to look at it for a while.
They were the ones I looked for the most. I really enjoyed them because they were the most dangerous. I don't know, they scared me, so I really kind of enjoed being around them because they gave me such an intense feeling. They were kind of my little friends, you know? I hung out with them. I'd catch them and keep them as pets, and then I'd release them, and I'd go catch some more.
Oh,
and
he's
keep them
definitely
as
the kind of
pets.
weirdo I like.
I used to love them.
I mean, I love snakes too, not that
Eventually,
much, but...
Jeb's insatiable appetite for fear was given a name.
Oh.
I was diagnosed with counterphobia and didn't believe them when they said it because it sounded almost too obvious.
Counterphobia.
Counterphobia led Jeb to deliberately seek out and expose himself to his deepest fears.
Well, it sounds like kind of a made-up condition, but whatever. Yeah, I didn't really. It was like, tell me something I don't know about myself. I mean, come on.
Wait. The fear of not being in fearful situations. I've never heard of that. Somebody is afraid not to be afraid. Interesting. Yeah, I've never heard of that. Well, I guess that's an actual fear. That's obviously it wasn't like a fear of kitchen counters or something. Like I knew that. I'm not that much of a rank amateur. I love language and, you know, etymology and whatnot. So I had an idea of what it could be, but it wasn't quite what the actual definition was. But that's still fascinating. I've never heard of that. But seriously, this guy seems exactly like the kind of weirdo that I like. I already said it, but I'm gonna say it again because it's absolutely true. I wouldn't go doing around stuff like this. Like going out and trying to experience life-threatening or fearful situations. I wouldn't go out and try and catch a rattlesnake, much as I love animals and snakes and stuff like that. I mean, for crying out tears, I got one right over here. Thought. But yeah, seriously though, I really do like snakes. Evidently. Most people might be frightened by looking at something like this, but ball pythons are incredibly tame. And this kind of area is the best source of heat for him. He actually loves chilling around my neck for a little while, just kind of circling around and stuff. He also likes going into my hair a bunch, and just like using his tongue to flick at my ear and tickle my hair. It's very amusing, so... I'm just, you know what, the title of this episode is Fearless, and what better way than to show that I'm not even afraid of my own snake. I'm not. I'm really not. He's very gentle, he's very cute, and very sweet, and he's not even close to being tied around my neck. He's just moving around. That's all he's doing. I totally forget where I was originally going to go with pausing, but yeah, I now have a snake on my neck.
Counterphobia fostered Jeb's love of spiders and snakes.
I'm sure.
As a child, they were about the only friends he had.
I never felt like I fit in. And I never did fit in, it wasn't a question. I mean, throughout my entire childhood, I never fit in with anybody.
A large part of Jeb's childhood was spent traveling with his parents. He got a wide view of the world, but was always the new kid on the block.
I went to 6 different schools from 1st to 6th grade. School was a battle zone for me. I didn't go to school feeling like I was going to some place to learn. I felt like I was going into a friggin' war zone. I mean, it was fighting non-stop. I mean, in 1st grade, I was getting in fist fights.
He was a loner in a lot of ways. Jeb had a very hard time. And yes, he did have fights. And he was eventually homeschooled.
I felt very lonely, and I felt like I was separated from other people. I felt very different, and I felt very strange, and I felt like an outcast. I had no hope. I had no desires. I didn't care. It made no difference to me. I was just like, well, whatever, I don't care. It didn't matter if I lived or died. It didn't make any difference to me.
Goodness. I semi-understand that point of view. I, myself, did not fit in with a lot of other kids for, I mean, kind of a variety of reasons. School never quite felt like a battlefield or a battleground to me, but it always did feel like I didn't quite belong, like I didn't fit in, although initially for the longest time I didn't realize that. I just thought I was doing my own thing. Because for those of you who don't know, and I know I've mentioned this in the past, but when I was in 2nd grade, I was having some social issues, and my parents brought me to the school psychologist, who suggested that I might have Asperger's, which is a milder form of autism. He's crawling down my back. So my parents brought me to to a professional psychologist who basically told my parents that I did not have autism according to her opinions, but I was definitely socially underdeveloped. But I still did display some Asperger's tendencies, I think, for a long time. I held very little interest in wanting to socialize with others, and when I did, I would get a little bit obsessive, and I was very focused on all kinds of topics related to science and history and geography in particular, and I would just hyperfixate on those and just only want to talk to people about those particular subjects. And I didn't realize for the longest time that that wasn't fully normal, I guess, because I had little desire to be social with anybody, to make impactful and long-lasting interpersonal relationships. I didn't think anything strange of it. It wasn't until my high school years, give or take, where I started to fully realize and comprehend, no, I'm definitely a bit of an outsider, especially given how much of a bookworm and how much of a teacher's pet that I was. I was definitely a teacher pleaser. And I didn't really care about a whole lot of other people. I mean, I cared about my family, and I still do very much, but my need for social interaction is just, it's very, very small compared to most other people, normal or otherwise. I just don't require that much social interaction. And if I get too much of it, I start to get real anxious and antsy real fast. Even spending time with my sister, whom I have lived with for most of my life, you know, pretty much most of my childhood and a very good portion of my adult life, despite living with her for that long, even spending too much time with her can get a little bit iffy and can run its course pretty fast. So that's why I often spend time by myself or just kind of in my own world. But yeah, for the longest time, I didn't think anything of it. And eventually it started hitting me in middle school, where I realized I might be a bit of an outsider, and it wasn't until closer to high school that I realized, yeah, I'm an outsider, and I know why. So I can understand part of where Jeb Corliss is coming from. I'm just gonna say Jeb. I don't really need to say the whole name. You all know why we're here. But I can somewhat understand where Jeb is coming from a very different perspective, that is. But I can definitely still understand it. We're all weird and odd in our own ways. Some of us more than others, and that tends to make us a little bit more of outcasts and outsiders than most other people. Tis what it is.
I mean, it's horrible to say, but I really was on a mission for death. As I impacted, I actually couldn't believe that a person could hit something that hard and continue to live.
Oh, goodness, we're going that route, huh?
The reality is no matter what you do in this life, it's coming to an end.
True.
Once you accept that there's nothing that you can do about your own mortality, then you're now free. You have no control. So stop pretending you do and just get on with living your life. Stop living in fear. 2, 1.
No control over death
See ya.
and mortality, but you do have some amount of choice.
Jeb Corliss, the sky is his office. Recognized as one of base jumping's best, he spent nearly a decade perfecting his craft.
Wow. Yeah, I could never do this.
I've done some video of him in free fall, and even though I'm focusing on the jump and focusing on him as a subject during filming, I'm still impressed. You know, there is a part of me going, wow, that looks awesome.
10 years in any sport is considered a good run. In base jumping, it's a lifetime.
It's a sport, you do one mistake, you can die right away, that's it. So it takes a certain type of a person to do it.
What makes base jumping so incredibly dangerous is just the fact there's such a small margin for error.
True.
From 0 to 80 miles an hour in 5 seconds.
Oh, yeah. Acceleration of gravity.
Jumpers reach terminal speed, 120 miles per hour.
It's fast, man. It's like,
In any sport where you're dealing
Just
with
that
high
fast.
speed and seconds to make reactions, there's potential for injury and there's potential for death.
it's no joke.
As a teenager, the potential for death was exactly what attracted Jeb to base jumping.
He was very shy, very introverted, had a great deal of difficulty dealing with the outside world as a whole.
I can get that.
From the age of 7 to 19, I was extremely suicidal. And to be honest with you, when I first saw base jumping, it really was perfect for one very specific reason. If I lived, I did something amazing that no one else on this planet would be willing to do. If I died, then it released me from my suffering on this planet. So one way or the other, I got what I wanted.
The first time that he heard about base jumping, he was 16 and he was watching a documentary on someone. And he knew immediately that that's what he wanted to do.
But I remember
I
thinking,
bet she's thrilled.
that's perfect. I mean, it's horrible to say, but I really was on a mission for death. I didn't want to live. I didn't care. I didn't care about anything. I didn't care about anybody else's life. I didn't care about my life. I was a walking dead person.
At the age of 22, Jeb began base jumping.
Wow, that's
On one of his first jumps,
that long?
he almost found what he was looking for.
I was very inexperienced. This was only my 6th base jump.
It was a 300-foot antenna, a dangerously low altitude for a beginner. Too low to allow for even the slightest mistake.
Yeah.
I am so scared. And I remember like looking down at the razor wire fence and just thinking, I'm not doing this. I'm just not gonna do this. And right as I say it, I just step off the antenna. And as I step off, I remember throwing the pilot chute and I remember everything just stopping. Everything starts moving really slow. And then all of a sudden it starts accelerating.
Yep.
I remember bringing my hands up and just bracing for impact as my parachute just goes and just opens. I mean, literally, it was like a shotgun, just poof. I couldn't believe that I was still friggin' alive. And I grab a riser and I turn, I just friggin' slam into the road. I'm like laying on the ground completely shaking. I could literally feel the air touching my skin. I could hear
Yeah.
little insects crawling in the grass around me. It was the most powerful experience I've ever had, period. And I remember
Jeez.
looking up at the antenna, I remember thinking, I'm a base jumper now. When I started base jumping, all of a sudden I started realizing, you know what? Life isn't just misery. Life isn't just darkness. There's beauty too. Through my search for death, I found my life. And base jumping is what helped me do that.
Interesting.
It gave me everything. Without it, I would be dead.
By his mid-20s, Jeb had 300 jumps under his belt.
Damn.
He was living his dream, traveling the world, looking for that next perfect base to conquer.
Wow.
It had such a small margin for error.
The Eiffel Tower?
It was one of my scariest base jumps ever. It was one of the few times
what?
that I've been so scared that I've been shaking uncontrollably.
You can do that?
Where I'm sitting there shaking so much that I'm just like telling my body, you know, stop shaking. You know, this isn't helping. I just couldn't stop shaking. It was truly horrifying. I stepped off, did my double reverse, landed. The security guard came up to me and she's just like, sir, you know, don't run away. And I just put my arms around her. I'm just like, I'm okay. I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm just hugging her. And she's just like, yes, yes, you're alive. And you're going to jail. And I'm just like, I don't care.
But the French police didn't know what to charge him with. In Paris, like most places, base jumping in itself is not illegal. Jeb
True.
escaped with a warning.
I've been detained in 4 different countries, you know, 4 different times.
Wow.
They don't have laws against it. But what
No,
they
they
do have
don't.
laws against are trespassing or reckless endangerment.
I enjoy
best
the
you can
sneakiness.
get.
I mean, I enjoy that part of it. I mean, when you're going somewhere where you're not supposed to be, you have to figure out how you get in, how you jump, and how you get out without getting busted. I mean,
Yeah.
it's rubbing almost like a bang. It feels like it, but it's not. We're not endangering any other lives.
Oh, well,
True.
Golden Gate Bridge isn't an illegal jump. I didn't ask for permission to do it, but it's not illegal. I
Oh,
went up there with a
goodness.
couple buddies. Eero was one of them. That night, we go and buy some hard hats so we look like construction workers.
Oh,
We
jeez.
then go to the center point and start climbing up the cables. We get to the top. The sun starts coming up, and it's beautiful, man. It was an incredible feeling.
I don't like the music. Something go wrong?
I jumped off, I did my triple reverse, opened my parachute, landed under the bridge. The fact that we got away was just luck. I mean, it was just a total miracle of God.
Yeah, tell me about it. Freaking Golden Gate
But
Bridge.
the law is the least of a base jumper's worries.
Yeah.
Wind gusts, sketchy landing areas, bad parachute pulls.
Oh yeah, no.
Just a few
Wind
things
gusts.
that can lead to disaster.
Wind gusts,
All base
absolutely.
jumpers have 1 or 2 stories, a truly close call or truly a magnificent jump, which they pulled away, and you know it was very close.
When I hit the waterfall,
Wick Falls.
that experience changed me as a person.
Looks
The water
beautiful.
was really pumping off the waterfall, and we were thinking, well, you know, the winds are good, but there might be some turbulence because of how much water's coming off this thing.
Very true.
You know, you go through this like danger to pleasure ratio, and at that point, the danger was worth the pleasure, so I'm like, I'm going for it. I jump off, and I throw my pilot chute. I make a massive mistake, which is I drop my left shoulder, which throws off my symmetry, which makes my parachute open asymmetrically. And I remember my parachute opening and looking at the waterfall going, oh. And all of a sudden, I just feel it just grab me by my legs and just suck me in.
Jeez.
And as I impacted, I actually couldn't believe that a person could hit something that hard and continue to live.
Jeez.
The current pushes me down. I get to these rocks, and I remember just kind of laying there on my back, just going, I mean, I was in excruciating pain.
Oh, I'm sure.
It took about 1 hour for my friends to get to me. During this whole process, there are these little crabs that lived in the water. And I had a big slice on my butt from hitting the cliff and tearing my pants open and tearing me open. The crabs were attracted to the blood into the wound. And through this entire time, I have these little tiny crabs like eating the flesh away from me. And there's really not a lot I can do. I mean, I can move my arms, but not very well.
Jeez.
And they just were relentless. They just wouldn't stop. They finally get me in the ambulance, and my friends come over to me and they're like, hey, you wanna see the footage? And I'm like, hell yeah, I do. So they get the camera out and they're like showing me the video. Literally, as I'm in the ambulance, I'm like going, damn. So I was like, at least we got some good footage.
You are
though.
lucky, you bastard.
So Jeb, base jumping is fun, eh?
Oh yeah. Ouch.
I feel you wanting to continue. It's
Jeb
like,
broke his left foot, right knee, most of his ribs, and his back in 3 places.
fuck.
He was laid up in the hospital for a month.
He survived
I mean,
that.
it
That's
makes
insane.
you appreciate your life so much more when you realize that it's not permanent. But did I think about stopping? Never.
Obviously not, otherwise there wouldn't be this
Base
video.
Russian roulette. Yeehaw.
The stuff that he was doing was light years ahead.
When you see him jumping, you're like, my God.
I mean, he was
Oh my
crazy, there's no
gosh.
question. But he was crazy in a good way. I kind of idolized the guy.
Who is this bastardly daredevil? Daredevilish devil. Nope. That didn't sound right at all.
I'm scared to die just like you are. As scared as you are standing on the edge of a building and jumping off is exactly how scared I am. I'm not superhuman. I'm a person, just like everybody else.
Got more courage
The
and
only
bravery
difference
than
is
us.
I've come to an acceptance. I'm prepared to die in life. Am I going to die? Yes, I am going to die. Will it be base jumping? Probably.
Holy crap, that building. It looks a little bit like a
In a sport where
birch.
every jump
No,
could
maybe
well
not.
be your last, Jeb Corliss has logged nearly 1,000. After a few
Shit.
hundred, he simply stopped counting.
And this was 10 years ago. He's probably like quintupled that number. Quintupled? How would you say that?
He's suffered gruesome injuries, watched friends die around him,
Yeah.
and still, he answers a call to step to the edge.
You can't really explain a
How?
feeling.
Just
Can you
how,
explain
man?
love to a person? A person really has to experience it to understand it.
That is definitely something that I can agree with. You can't explain a love of something or a passion to someone else, even if they love it. Like, because everybody has their own perspective, their own opinions on why they love something or why they're passionate about something. I can definitely attest to that. Like, much as I love doing stuff like my YouTube channel, it's not something I absolutely love. Not like my art and my writing. I love to death my art and writing. I love and am very passionate about the stories that I've wound together, the characters and the perspectives that I've created, the experiences that I get to write down that are completely fictitious in nature and yet at the same time feel so real to me. And with art, it's kind of the same thing, especially with my comic, because my comic is like my writing, just in an artistic form, I guess you could say. But being able to describe my love and my passion to somebody else, like somebody could, like you guys could hear me talking about it, could hear the words that come out of my mouth, and maybe understand it to an extent. But almost everybody won't know how it truly feels. All I can just say simply is that my art and writing in particular means so much to me. And I would do anything to get all of my stories and characters written before my inevitable death, because I've come to accept it at this point too. I accepted it a long time ago that, like he said, I'm mortal. We're all mortal. We all die a little bit every day. We're always 1 day, 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 second closer to death. In every passing moment, we're always closer to it. We don't have any control over how it's going to happen necessarily. I mean, it's a little easier to see with Jeb, at least, because, you know, base jumping is a very high risk, I think high reward kind of gamble. And he would likely lose his life base jumping as opposed to anything else because of how often he does it and because of how high risk it is. I don't know how I'm gonna die. Maybe it's gonna be disease. Maybe I'm gonna get run over by a car. I don't freaking know, but it's gonna happen. Ain't that right? It's gonna happen to you too, but most animals don't have to worry about existential crises like that. There's still so much that I do want to do before I end up dying. It could come in 5 years. It could come in 60. I don't know. And I wouldn't say I live life to the fullest every day, but I definitely enjoy it, and I still do what I love. Very much so. Ain't that right? Ain't that right? What with your tongue flicking? I don't know if you can see his tongue flicking, but it's been a flicking. But yeah, to explain a passion and an unbelievable desire that one has for someone or something, it's very difficult to explain to other people. We all have something, maybe even a couple things. I've known mine for a very long time, but to have somebody else understand it completely, that's almost impossible. You can hear people talk about their loves and passions and desires, and you can understand them, but you can't really understand it, if that makes any sense. I don't understand him specifically, but I understand where he's coming from, and I get the point that he's trying to make.
You can't really explain a feeling. I mean, can you explain love to a person? A person really has to experience it to understand it. There's only 2 things in this world that will prevent me from base jumping: quadriplegia or death. Adrenaline is nice, but it's not why I do it.
It is good reason to do it, though, I guess.
I do it because this is my life. This is fulfilling my dreams. It's about the journey. It's about going to the place. It's about going somewhere you've never been before. Seeing things you've never seen.
Fair.
Meeting people you've never met.
He's crawling in my shirt now.
We were introduced by a mutual friend of ours. I was starting to base jump at that time, and we struck up a friendship then, and we started taking trips together right away. That was fun, you know, I mean, he's a high energy person.
The interesting thing about her is she's still a girl, even though she's super hardcore. You know, she's like this super intense climber, jumper, blah, 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 but she still wakes up extra early to get all of her makeup on, you know?
He's kind of
Nice.
spastic, and I'm pretty mellow most of the time, so we balance each other out really well.
Wow, he's really crawling in my shirt now.
From about 7 years old till I was around 19 or 20. And I felt uncomfortable around people, and I felt uncomfortable in social situations. And now, through base jumping, I found out that, hey, there are people like myself. And there are people who like to do the kinds of things that I like to do. And I'm not alone.
There are always going to be people kind of like you in that way. Always.
On one of their trips in July of 2000, Jeb introduced Karen to another base jumper, his friend, Dwayne Weston.
They had an instant kind of, and I remember just looking at it, just going, that was quick. Oh well. Yeah, it was. They were like pretty much together right away.
I really felt when I first met him that my life is never going to be the same.
Dwayne Weston was one of base jumping's most revered and respected. But Karen was a newcomer to the sport.
I met him and got to know him without knowing anything else about him or his jumping or his accomplishments.
He was considered to be the craziest base jumper on the planet, doing things that were just beyond possible.
Ice Russian roulette. Yeehaw.
2, 1.
That sounds a bit
Wim Weston
Australian.
was one of the first jumpers to introduce aerobatics to the sport.
Oh.
His reputation for pushing the envelope was widely known.
I heard about him
Jeez.
probably a year or two before I actually met the guy. He was legendary. When I'd heard about him, I imagined just hardcore, extreme, just like, oh.
Yay.
But when I met him, he was like this kind of almost computer nerd dude with kind of funny hair and like kind of a lispy, almost feminine voice. And I remember just looking at him going, "You're Dwayne?"
He appeared to be quiet, nice, but then when you see him jumping, you're like, my God, like, is that possible?
Wow.
He was a god. I mean, it was like, here was Dwayne, here was everybody else. I mean, he didn't even have a close second. He still doesn't.
Wow.
Jeb and Dwayne met in 1998, and as their friendship grew, so did base jumping. The sport exploded from its underground roots. Exhibitions sprang up all over the world. Jeb and Dwayne quickly became crowd favorites, pulling jumps and moves never before seen.
Jeez.
He definitely helped me like learn through this sport and do things better. I actually thought it was insane. I'm like, I'd never do something like that. And then within a year, I won.
Now?
I mean,
The
he was
aerobatics
crazy.
are
There's no
impressive,
question.
I will say that.
Today is a good day to die. Blah, blah, blah.
But
He sounds
he was
Australian.
crazy in a good way. He did very powerful, very dangerous, very incredible things. But he was very calculated. I kind of idolized the guy.
Wow.
He was an incredible human being.
Yahoo.
Yahoo!
By 2003, Jeb and Dwayne had led base jumping into new territory.
Oh?
They planned a spectacular jump that would push the sport and themselves even further.
It was doable, like very doable. It seemed risk to pleasure ratio seemed like pleasure was way higher than risk and totally worth it.
Oh?
Their stunt would prove to be memorable, but for all the wrong reasons.
Oh no.
And I know that he probably, up until the last second, believed he was gonna pull it. All of a sudden, I see something that was very difficult for me to comprehend at the time. And I just look down and I see that I'm covered in blood.
Jeez. He's still in my shirt, by the way. Yep, there he is.
3, 2, 1.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Is that safe? That's too many bodies at once, even if you all reach terminal
In the
velocity
community
at
of base
different
jumpers,
times.
there's definitely a connection that you make with these people that are unlike any connection I've ever had with any other group of human beings. You are relying on one another. You know that if one of you gets injured, that this person is going to be the one who pulls you out. They're going to be the one who makes the phone call. They're going to be the one who saves your life. The connections become very powerful and very strong.
Oh, hi.
You will get hurt, you start doing base jumping. You will see people dying, and most likely they will be your friends.
When a base jumper dies on a jump, other jumpers say they've gone in.
Jeez.
Since 1980, around 100 jumpers have gone in. But those are only reported fatalities. The real number is thought to be much higher.
Jeez.
Base jumping really does seem a lot like going to war. I always kind of have this weird feeling when I go out with a group of guys. It's like, well, geez, man, who's it going to be this time?
Fair. It's high risk. It's a risk no matter where you go. It's just a matter of how high. Canyon City. I don't know
At
this
over
place.
1,000 feet, this is the highest suspension bridge in the world.
Whoa. 1,000 feet?
In October of 2003, Jeb Corliss and his friend Dwayne Weston came here to conquer the Royal River Gorge.
Oh, I know that.
If anything wasn't right,
Still
we
haven't heard
wouldn't
of
have done
Canyon
it.
City.
Everything was perfect. I mean, it was safe. It was good conditions for what we were trying to do.
What they were trying to do had never been attempted.
It wasn't a base jump. It wasn't a skydive. It was its own bizarre, unique, first-time thing. You know, no one had ever done that before.
Dwayne and Jeb planned to jump from a plane using wingsuits, a recent innovation that allows jumpers to glide through the air.
Wow.
I was gonna fly under the bridge. He was gonna fly over the bridge. We were gonna deploy inside the gorge, land our parachutes, and that was pretty much it.
Oh,
Both
that
men were
sounds
at the top
insane.
of their sport. Dwayne, in particular, had become more than just a jumper.
He had so many jumps, and he pulled them off like incredible things. So in some way, you know, I thought like he can't get hurt.
Don't get cocky.
Dwayne was one of these guys that you looked at and it's like, he's indestructible.
Definitely bleeding from the face there.
Yeah, I went through a cactus and landing.
Yeah.
He was a legend because he was almost risen to a level of immortal.
That was his playground, that dangerous area, that riskier area, that walking on the edge plays.
In over 1,200 base jumps, Dwayne Weston had suffered little more than a scratch.
Yeah, baby.
Apparently, yeah.
His
Dysentery.
meticulous approach and dazzling execution had revolutionized the sport.
He was
Dwayne
calculated.
was probably the
As
best
said
base jumper
earlier.
in the world.
Yahoo.
But he wasn't really that great a wingsuit pilot.
He was flying a new suit that he wasn't that familiar with, and that kind of bothered me, yeah.
That's, yeah.
Canopy is going to be doing this, right? Like you're here because you can see it. Right. When you guys can be doing that, and I'm
Dwayne, Jeb, and 40 of the world's elite base jumpers gathered by invitation only at the Go Fast Games.
We talked on the day that he left, and I just told him, go and just have fun and make good decisions. And just remember, you know, you don't have anything to prove to anybody at this point in your life and in your career. You know, just go and enjoy yourself.
The weekend up to that point was spectacular. 40 people doing 6 jumps a day, 3 days in a row.
Goodness.
And there's nothing more than like a twisted ankle.
Wow.
give us kind of a wind up direction. Exiting at 3,000 feet above the bridge.
20,000 feet, holy shit.
I got a phone message from him, and he said he was being safe and having a good time, and he said, I'll be home tomorrow night, back in your arms, and that was the last message that I got from him.
Yeah, I think I already know where this is going.
It was the last jump on the last day of the games.
He and the plane seemed a little bit scared. When we were standing in the doorway about ready to jump out, he grabs my hand and he just looks at me and he's all, Jeb, just remember, whatever happens, happens. And I just kind of looked at him and I remember thinking, what? You know, I mean, we had been on a lot of really hardcore jumps together. He never said anything like that to me before.
It's like
I was just like,
he
that's
knew.
kind of a weird thing to say.
Somehow he knew.
We left the airplane. I started flying. I saw Dwayne out of my peripheral for just a split second. I didn't see him much in free fall. So I just kind of saw a little bit of him out of my peripheral up above me, and then I kind of just focused on the bridge, and I'm like, okay, there's the bridge. I went ahead and opened up my wingsuit and started powering up underneath the bridge. All of a sudden, I see something that was very difficult for me to comprehend at the time.
Oh no!
I saw a parachute opening right in front of my face.
Oh!
I actually had to make evasive action. I had to actually turn to avoid hitting him.
Shit.
I see other stuff in the air, and there's all this other stuff. I'm like going, what is this stuff? I open my canopy, land, and I just look down and I see that I'm covered in blood. And I'm just like, whoa.
Jeez.
And I look over and I see a severed leg lying on the ground. And I'm just
Holy
like,
shit.
I mean, it was, you know, I just went into shock.
Yeah, how does one explain that?
Dwayne hit the bridge at 120 miles an hour.
Jesus.
He died instantly. His parachute deployed on impact, and carried his lifeless body to a ledge above the river.
Holy shit.
As much as Dwayne and I talked about death and the possibility of losing each other in the sport, nothing can fully prepare you when it actually happens.
No, definitely not.
I remember it like it was yesterday, you know, and I don't think it's something I'll forget very soon, you know.
He wanted to skim that bridge by just a few feet, you know? If he had tried to miss the bridge by 50 feet, or if he tried to miss the bridge by 100 feet, he would have been fine.
Jeez.
He always wanted to cut it as close as he possibly could.
Why did you have to push the envelope in an area that you weren't an expert in? I was a little bit upset about that, but in the end, ultimately, it kind of comes full circle, and I couldn't stay mad very long. Any anger I felt was so short-lived because that was just kind of who he was, and I loved him deeply for that.
Maybe 2 or 3 months after it happened, I started kind of questioning, you know, what is my meaning here? Why do I do this? Like, what's the meaning of it? Is it still important to me?
Fair.
You know, is it worth dying for?
So it would have been like
Shit,
that,
bro.
Yeah, the whole railing was completely like bent in.
Yeah.
The railing
I'm
was
really glad I
bent
wasn't
from
here
Dwayne's
to
impact.
see it.
Shit. I know it was 120, like, well over 100 miles an hour, but still, shit. Yeah, that really puts it into perspective. Shit, that's all I can say. That's intense. To be going that fast, trying to skim it just a little bit too close, and there's such a tiny, the most minuscule margin of error. Or maybe the biggest, I can't think of margin of error, but the tiniest slip up could land you right where it landed Dwayne. That's how it is for some of the high risk stuff like that. To hit something that even most cars, even when people are in car accidents, they might not travel that fast necessarily. And to hit something as large a structure and as sound as a structure as a bridge at over 100 miles an hour. And human flesh still managed to dent that. I'm not trying to gloss over the fact that a life was lost that day. But physics is crazy. I can't imagine watching somebody hit something like any living individual. I can't imagine it making contact with something at that speed. Whatever it was. You make contact with any other object at that speed, no matter what it is, something's not going to end well. It's just there's no better way of, yeah. Jeez, that's intense. Yeah, that sounds like a ridiculous injury. So traumatic, I imagine. And I also imagine that he still kept going. I mean, kudos to him for his bravery, his fearlessness, but still. Most people couldn't handle something like that. To watch that, or to have that happen. And then to keep, and for the person who survived, for anybody who survived, to keep doing it. It sounds insane, but it also doesn't. It's a feeling I don't think I can describe. Because I wouldn't even know how to come close to describing it. I don't even know if Jeb could describe it, and he was there. He had it happen to him. In a way. Shit, man. Shit. That's all I can really say.
When you get into the sport of base jumping, you have to be very realistic about your mortality. Pretty much anybody who does this sport understands that it's dangerous and understands that you can be killed doing it.
Oh, yeah.
In October of 2003, with over 100 already dead, base jumping claimed another victim.
Yeah.
I went into shock. I just kind of went numb. And I didn't really, it took me a while to really kind of grasp what had even happened.
At close range, Jeb Corliss witnessed the violent death of one of the sport's most respected athletes, his friend, Dwayne Weston.
It's really kind of taken a lot of my steam out as far as like the real super heavy drive for jumping.
So I think it was
love jumping.
Dwayne's parachute
It's a
that
huge part of
opened
my
in
life,
front of
and it's
him.
something I enjoy doing, and I'm gonna probably continue doing it for a very long time.
Damn.
But is it the end-all, be-all thing? Not anymore.
I think about him every day. I don't think that that part ever gets easier, the missing part, you know, because he was such an irreplaceable person. And I think that for me, that will be with me for the rest of my life, you know.
Yeah, the missing part never gets easier, for sure.
Even base jumpers knew that the ocean was his church. And so we had a memorial in Malibu.
We didn't dump all of his ashes, we just dumped part of them. And I remember coming back with the bag on my surfboard, and I actually caught a wave. And I was like surfing the wave with Dwayne. It's like, oh, there's your last wave, dude. You know, it was kind of, yeah, it was what it was.
That actually reminds me of pretty recently. So I really only had one family member or friend that's very close to me pass away, and that was my grandmother. And she passed in 2009. It was very hard on the family. I was in 8th grade at the time, but she passed away, and it was kind of hard on everybody. And my family and I kept her ashes for a long time. Well, half of it was kept by my parents and kind of my sister and I to an extent. The other half, my aunt and uncle, who was my grandmother's biological daughter. We, the family, as in me, my sister, my parents, and my aunt and uncle, the 6 of us are all very close. Probably the closest family that I have, besides 4 of my grandparents and my great aunt. But the 6 of us, we were together for all kinds of things. And before my parents decided to move to Portugal last year, they wanted all 6 of us to hang out and to spread my grandmother's ashes somewhere in nature. Because my grandmother, she loved birds. She loved nature. I actually, I have her old sketchbook, and she's got a lot of really cool stuff. It's kind of crazy what she was able to do with pen, pencil, and charcoal. At least now I know where my artistic abilities came from. We were going to spread out her ashes somewhere in nature, so we ended up going to this hiking trail not far from Estes Park, which is a very cool place. It's a tourist attraction, but it's a great place to visit for locals as well. And I don't remember exactly where we went, but we definitely hiked around this lake or reservoir, and then we hiked up some rocky areas and forested areas a little bit further. We found this cliff that overlooked a sort of like canyon type area. All 6 of us just kind of started slowly, dumping out the ashes, letting them spread out over nature. It was a little humorous though. I don't remember who was dropping the ashes that time, but all of a sudden there's a gust of wind and my aunt gets like pelted with some ashes as they're being poured out a little bit, and all 6 of us burst out into laughter because we know for a fact that my grandmother would have laughed too. And it was just so funny. It's like she was sharing in one last laugh with us, one last adventure with us. with all 6 of us. Because she wasn't really around too much when all the 6 of us had begun to form our bonds and get a lot closer. And that was kind of a surreal feeling. To actually feel like she was there with us. Just bursting into laughter as my aunt sort of gets doused in some ashes. That was a good day. That was a good day. It was very comforting, very surreal in a lot of ways. So I can definitely understand where Jeb is coming from, and I've already forgotten her name. I'm not really good with names, but I get where they're coming from.
We didn't dump all of his ashes, we just dumped part of them. And I remember coming back with the bag on my surfboard, and I actually caught a wave, and I was like surfing the wave with Dwayne. It's like, oh, there's your last wave, dude. Yeah, it was kind of, yeah, it was what it was.
Yeah.
It was relatively intense.
And there were people all on the bridge here?
Yeah.
Almost a year to the day after Dwayne's death, Jeb and Karen came to jump Colorado's Royal River Gorge.
When Dwayne died, it took a little bit of time, but I knew that I would jump again, and I wanted to jump again.
There. A little bit to the right, it was closer to that cable.
Really?
So it would have been like right about here.
Really?
Yeah, the whole railing was completely like bent in.
Yeah.
And it actually, the vibrations shattered supports underneath.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's insane. A human body did that just by impacting it. That's just insane.
It was definitely hard for her, and I could tell.
Yeah.
But she's a strong person, you know. She's dealt with a lot of people dying.
I feel very uneasy on the bridge, and I was thinking about jumping the bridge. I was considering it, but actually seeing the place where he impacted, I really don't have a desire to jump it right now. Maybe I will someday.
Fair.
I started kind of questioning, you know, what is my meaning here? Why? And then I kind of came to the same conclusion I've always come to, which is, well, I'm gonna die anyway. So, does base jumping enrich my life and make me a happy person? Yes. Is it worth giving my life for? Yes, it is.
Fair.
I kind of feel a little bit nauseous. This is what I look like when I'm scared.
I missed the wall by, I mean, I felt like I was on it. I felt like I could touch it. I don't want to ever get any more hardcore than that.
Oh, jeez. To base jump and like you're skimming the wall. I can't imagine how terrifying that would be.
I'm doing more dangerous jumps than I've ever done before, but they're safer than any jumps I've ever done before because my skill level is higher.
True.
Just a few feet from where his friend died a year before, Jeb Corliss readies himself to leap into the void.
I feel pretty comfortable that I'm going to be okay, but it's always kind of sketchy when you're doing new stuff.
Jeb has practiced this jump only a few times, and never from this bridge.
I do a lot of visualization right before I jump, you know, trying to concentrate on what I'm going to be doing, how I'm going to be doing it. Feeling a little short of breath. I can actually feel my heart. I can feel it kind of like it's up higher in my chest than normal. I kind of feel a little bit nauseous. So this is what I look like when I'm scared. And now you know.
I'm more likely to hear something than see it in terms of it being scared.
As I launched, I think a bird flew in front of me. I felt like I was going to hit something. My brain just like it scrambled. I mean, I'm just going, whoa, I'm just flipping in different directions. I'm going backwards, I'm going forwards, and I'm losing altitude fast. So I just kind of like reach back, pitch my pilot chute, my body's not in really the right position. Line twists, I'm looking at the wall, I'm turning away, I missed the wall by, I mean, I felt like I was on it. I felt like I could touch it.
Jeez.
Wow. I mean, that's about as close and about as hardcore as it can get. I don't want to ever get any more hardcore than that. It was enough to make me go, you know what, I'm good for today. I think I'll chill for a little bit.
He's at his fill for today.
Oh, that's Jesus.
Wow.
If I had pulled a second later, I would have gone in. I would have hit the cliff.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't be here talking to you right now. I'd be in the hospital or
dead.
The morgue.
Yeah.
It is one of the few certainties in base jumping that despite preparation, skill, or courage, jumpers will continue to die.
Sketchy exit point, dude. All right.
Just because our dreams and who we are is different than other people doesn't make it wrong or bad or a waste. It's who we are. It's what we are. It's what we love. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if you die doing something that you love, it's not throwing your life away.
See you guys.
I mean, no. That's a sight.
I think that we're all here for a reason, a season, or an entire lifetime. So treat those that you love with respect and appreciation all the time, because, you know, death is really only a step away for all of us at any given time, even if you're not jumping off of buildings and cliffs, you know?
How's it going, man?
Where you came from?
The sky.
I don't believe you can push life too far. I mean, if you just stop pushing, you stop evolving. You stop becoming something new. You become stagnant and you die off.
Yeah.
You have to evolve.
True.
Life is precious. We only have so much time on this world. You know, you might as well go out there, live your life, live your dreams, do what you love. Find that passion, find the things that you love.
It's different for everybody.
Once you find it, well, go do it.
And it's different for everybody. Gotta give all these people their credit as well. So I'll let it play, but yep. He summed it up pretty damn good right at the end there. Yep. Yep. He definitely, I was already thinking myself of what to say after it ended, and he easily said more than half of it by the time the credits started rolling around. Treat everybody with kindness, compassion, respect. And as long as you do that, you're free to do what you love. You're free to push the boundaries, because humans are supposed to change and grow and evolve. We have to keep pushing ourselves to some extent. That's the only way we can grow and learn. I mean, there's no better way of putting it, really. It's crazy what all of these people, like the Iceman, Wim Hoff, what base jumper Jeb Corliss, it's crazy what so many different kinds of people go through to push their limits, their abilities to the extreme in ways that most people couldn't even fathom. Most people wouldn't even dare. I'm not quite fearless. I don't want to have to do this, but that's also because I find great love and passion and enjoyment in other things. Don't get me wrong. I love my YouTube channel. I love my job. Hell, I love forensics a whole bunch. But to take me away from something like my writing, my art, my comics, my stories, and my characters, that would just crush me. And That right there is my base jumping for Jeb. We all have that. We all have at least something that we love and that we will absolutely live for. Again, it could be a specific person, it could be a hobby, an object, a place, something. Every one of us has something, and it's vastly different for everybody. Some people it could be religion or faith. Some people it could be an activity. Others it's a family member or a friend, somebody they care about. It's so incredibly vastly different what we all love, what we're passionate about, what our desire to live ends up being. Some of us have more than one, some of us just have one, some of us haven't even discovered it yet. And you don't have to discover it, but it is pretty interesting to try and discover it and to find out what it is. The process of discovery is pretty cool. It's not always the destination. Sometimes it's the journey. Sometimes it's the journey and the destination. And some people might think it's neither. Everybody is entitled to that opinion, for sure. I personally believe that regardless if you have the destination, just being and doing and living and being open-minded to discovering what it is that makes you you is pretty awesome in of itself. And I definitely would recommend that people, if they haven't tried discovering yet, to try. Sometimes you may learn things about yourself that even you don't know. That's a pretty crazy and cool feeling that's difficult to describe or comprehend unless you've experienced it. And even when you have experienced it, you still can't quite explain it to somebody else because it's different for everybody. So that was very cool. It was very inspiring. Nice to see some things like this kind of appear for patron requests. So I'm gonna end it here. Thank you all for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And as usual, until the next video, guys, check you laters.